What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Grow Up, Level Up, the podcast where we talk to folks about the fun and games that help them grow up and the fun and games that they choose to play with today. Of course, my name is Samson, and I'm coming in with another really cool guest, somebody who I actually wanted to record a podcast with for a really long time. So we have a little bit of history there, but I'll let them introduce themselves in a second. Just want to do a real quick bit of housekeeping. Thank you for joining us. You can find Grow Up, Level Up everywhere. If you haven't caught it from last week's episode, or I guess lack of episode, we're going to be doing podcasts whenever they're ready now. So podcasts aren't going to go up every week, but whenever I feel like it's doing good. And maybe you can let me know if you like that kind of model as well. Grow Up, Level Up is just a hobby for myself and for everybody involved. So we'd like to take it easy and, work-life balance kind of stuff. But enough about me. I'd love to introduce our brand new guest from the gaming podcast world, Adam Gumby. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
Welcome. Adam, if you can you give maybe a 60-second introduction of yourself?
Oh, that's way too much time. So I'm Adam Gumbert. Go online as Adam Gumby. I do 100 podcasts. I've done gaming podcast, D&D actual play podcast, just kind of hang out in that kind of realm. But the current thing is Respawn Aim Fire, which is a video game podcast where we have a weekly show where it's a lot of segments, a lot of like game show style stuff, as well as doing a little bit of news. And then also a D&D podcast is Misfit Rolls, or Isle of Misfit Rolls. And those are the two things that I'm currently doing, but I've done about 100 of them in my time. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, Respawn Aim Fire was kind of, personal Samson lore, I guess. Before Adam, I think you weren't on the show yet, but I did that with Chadwick and Holden. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of actually my first experience podcasting. They invited me on through Kind of Funny, listening to Games Daily, and they invited me on. And I think that was before the newest Animal Crossing came out. So this was before 2020. And I kind of talked about how Animal Crossing is a game that needs to exist because it's good for kids and it's good for making friends and practicing. Games don't have to be about shooty. It can be about doing nice things for your neighbors, whether they're real or not. So anyways, I'll try to dig up that episode and listen to show notes if you want to listen to some historic Samson podcast.
The funny thing about that one, that me and you were both guests on that podcast.
Were we?
That's how we know each other.
Oh,
were both,
yeah.
That's way before. I was 2 years before I was on the show full time. Mm-hmm. Me and you, through Kind of Funny, both guested on the same episode.
That's cool. Oh, so man.
That is where we first met each other, I'm pretty sure.
That is honestly, it's so long ago. So much has happened since then. Time is a flat circle, as they say. But I'm so glad that you are here now, Adam, to chat and talk about how you do podcasting as a hobby, and not just podcasting. You kind of integrate two hobbies, gaming and podcasting. So I'd love to chat about what that is like for you and your process. But before we dive into the topic of the show, I have to ask something that I ask every guest is, what are you drinking today on the podcast?
Okay, so I have this. I'm not opening it yet, but as we talked about before, I am from Kentucky, which is a land famous for college basketball, as we discussed, horse racing and bourbon as well. So I have a bottle of Woodford Reserve.
Okay.
So apparently, this is my favorite bourbon. Apparently, it's pretty popular, higher shelf stuff. Not $1,000 bottle, but they can get pretty pricey. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine lives in Washington State, and he couldn't get it for less than $80. And bro, I went down to Kroger, which is a grocery store, and got this size bottle for $25. It's nothing.
Wow.
Here. So I've got this brand new bottle of Woodford Reserve ready to go.
All right, let's get into it. So that's actually super cool. One, I didn't know Woodford Reserve was from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And two, that is also one of my favorite bourbons. And your friend is right. It is expensive up here in the Pacific Northwest.
So the problem, just a little quick thing. So I'm not an expert on it, but bourbon, I think specifically can only be made in Kentucky or Tennessee. It's something with the way that it's made. And I think it has to have water that gets filtrated through limestone, which is big in this part of the country. There's something there's a lot of whiskey, but it's quote unquote bourbon. It has to be in the 3-state radius to be made. So that's why it's cheap for me and very expensive for everybody else.
That is cool. I'll have to figure out a way to import some from Kentucky where it's made. That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, definitely one of my go-to bourbons as well. So you gotta figure that out. Oh, and for myself, I'm just drinking a black coffee. It is the end of the day, so it's kind of funny we have two opposite ends of drinks here.
Well, you don't start your day with bourbon, or
just cleared it up. No. I guess when in Kentucky, maybe next time.
Mhm.
And I also ask all my guests, what are your top 3 games of all time?
By the way, this is the worst question of all time because it's so hard for me. Like, you ask me any day and I'll switch them, but I've decided on these what I'm going to say today, and they'll change tomorrow, and it is what it is. Actually, one of them won't. The first one that will always be on my list is XCOM 2.
Ooh, okay.
Which I believe, didn't I give you a copy of XCOM 2?
I did get a copy of it. I haven't got around to it, to be honest, but it is on my downloaded, and like, I got to get out to it. There's just too many games, you know?
I know, there's a ton of games. XCOM 2, I love it. So I've always liked strategy games specifically. And XCOM 2 is just one of my favorites. I don't know what it is, man. Firaxis made that game. They brought back that franchise, and I've played multiple playthroughs, hundreds of hours. That I don't know what it is about. I like, just like, you make your friends, and then they get killed by a snake alien. Like, oh no, Chad's dead. Oh well, it is what it is. Got to keep moving along. I don't know. That game to me has infinite replay value, as well as being difficult enough to, when you overcome it, it feels really, really good. So I'm a huge fan of XCOM 2, always have been. That literally led me to like even trying Marvel's Midnight Suns. So I'm super big XCOM fan.
Like a strategy game, turn-based.
Put me on a grid.
Specific.
Yeah, give me turns on a grid, and I'm good to go. But
some cover, some percentages, and
absolutely. I've tried so many games just because they're like, it's like XCOM. I'm like, I'm there. Don't even worry about it. Awesome. So that's one of them. My second one, so 2 and 3 are gonna be connected. 2, I'll go ahead and say, is Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Yeah,
I guess tabletop game still counts. Just because, again, that's what the other podcast I did. I've played D&D or a tabletop RPG for, man, I don't know, too many years now. We don't need to think about how long it's been, but maybe 5 years or more. Super into it. It's a great time. Met a lot of friends that way. Made podcasts out of it. All that good stuff. I love D&D. It's a great time. And that leads me to number 3 on the list, which is Baldur's Gate 3, which is was my game of the year last year. One of my favorite games. I mean, I'm talking about on my top 3. Phenomenal. The fact that they made a game where you can really do anything or fail anything, and the game just keeps, they're like, all right, cool. And yes, they really converted D&D into a video game, and it works, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, it was in early access for about 4 years, so maybe that's probably part of it, but it really does work, and Baldur's Gate is amazing and easily one of my favorite games. So D&D and Baldur's Gate 3 go hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. It's the tabletop RPG, one on an actual tabletop and the other on a desk, I guess, or a TV. No, that's awesome. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is such a surprise hit for me as well. Like, I would say I'm a recent convert. I recently started D&D. By recent, I mean during the pandemic, which is like 4 years ago now. It's insane. So I'm new to that whole world. But when Baldur's Gate came out and all my friends got into it, and I'm like, oh, you can really do anything in this game. I'm like, that's on a technical side, that's amazing. But on a game side as well, that was also so much fun, which is kind of the basis of most games. That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Lots of strategy games, I feel, that you have.
Yeah, I didn't intentionally do it, but it absolutely turned out that way.
Yeah, that's all good. Moving on to the topic of the show, I'd love to ask you a little bit about podcasting and your podcasting journey. So you kind of talked about it earlier in your introduction, but do you mind retelling us the podcasts that you do and take part in?
So currently it's Respawn Aim Fire, which is the gaming podcast that introduced us. And then Isle of Misfit Rolls, which is the D&D podcast. Those are the current ones. I have been on other ones in the past. If I think back on it, I've probably been doing some form of a podcast for, I don't even want to think about that much time, maybe 7 years.
Wow.
Maybe on and off. So we're going a while. Those are the 2 constants right now. But yeah, been going for a while, man.
Yeah. I guess what brings you back? What keeps you going for doing podcasting for 7 years?
I mean, it's just got to be fun is the main thing. Because there's So people do, like make content or whatever, which is great and awesome. But for me, it was just always something enjoyable. So like the first one I ever did, which is not online anymore, it's gone, it's deleted. You can never find it. It was just me and my friends wanted to like mess around and just like talk.
Totally.
At the time, Pat McAfee was like brand new, wasn't with ESPN yet. This was when Pat McAfee was like way back in the day.
Yeah.
Just started out doing a thing, and me and my friend are both Colts fans. We're like, oh man, that's a cool thing. Let's do that. And then ever since then, it's always been like, we're just hanging out, we're talking about a thing, and then it switched to maybe a different group, a different topic. And it just keeps going. Because it's just, for me, it's just like a way to like cheat, to be social. It's like, I'll be quote unquote creative, but I'm just like hanging out and doing my thing. But actually, it leads to some pretty cool places, and you can be really creative and have some cool opportunities with it. But I just like, when I don't do it, I'm just like, all right, I'm just sitting around and not doing as much as I want to. Like, you can only watch so much football before you're like, I mean, I would also like to, or, play 500 hours of PUBG, be like, oh, this is fun, but like, let me also do something else for 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. Okay. So it kind of came from hanging out with friends and like a little desire to be productive. I know that's like not the right word, but little bit of productivity, little bit of,
I guess, creative is a way.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because video, everyone wanted to get in YouTube, obviously, back when that came out. And a lot of our stuff does go up on YouTube. But like, you might know, like it is a slog creating video stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a lot of work and all that. But when I first started, I was like, well, I mean, I didn't know how to edit audio because it takes 2 seconds. We could just do audio only. And that's what got me started. And then it just never stopped. And then that led to like a lot of friendships and a lot of cool opportunities. It is really weird how you think just like sitting down with a microphone and being like, all right, let's talk about X because we like X. And then that can end up being pretty fun and then lead to some pretty cool stuff.
Totally. Yeah, I totally resonate with that. It's I started this one similar to be creative and exercise those skills. And then, yeah, I've reconnected with folks that I haven't talked to in years. I've met new folks and met some folks at the Game Awards that I've done podcasts with. So it is really cool if you just put yourself out there. You never know who might or what might come out of it. I guess you've done it for 7 years. It started off as hanging out with your friends and that. Where did you learn most of your skills podcasting?
Well, like a lot of people will say, just do a thing. Because I'm like, all right, the whole idea of talking and making up topics and like creating a show, like I could do that. And then, but of course it was awful. That first podcast, which is no longer online, thank God, because it was not very good. I mean, it was fun. It was a great time, but not fun. But just like doing your thing helps you, and like practice makes perfect. And that forced me to like learn how to edit. Like, so I've done a lot of audio editing, especially like with Misfit Rolls. Like early on, I would spend like 6 hours per 1 hour episode or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
It just leads to a lot of different skills like management and basic stuff like that. But yes, what was the actual question?
I guess where did you learn most of your skills? It sounds like it's from experience, but
yeah, self-taught most of it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You can teach yourself. It's going to be bad at the start, but you can teach yourself how to do a lot of stuff if you have the patience and some time to do it. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. Any like specific resources that you went to, or that any people that helped you, anything like that, or it was trial and error all the way through?
No, there's definitely an in-depth Google search at the beginning before you start. Like, what's best starting podcast mic? What's the best free, recording audio and that kind of a thing.
Totally.
But definitely like, we'll probably get to it a little bit later, but the community around people who do it, because, everyone makes a joke like, if you're 32, you should have at least one podcast or whatever. There's a joke about being a certain age and having a podcast.
Totally. Yeah.
But like, so you get to be around other people who do it. You're like, hey, I'm new to this thing. How do I do this? And then everyone's so nice and inviting, especially like with us, for like coming from a group like Kind of Funny. It's like, all right, we all like these one group of people who do this thing. We also want to do something similar. And then we don't even have to ask them. Like you can, they'll answer you, but you can ask other people in that same like fan group who are doing a similar thing. Mm-hmm. There's just like a lot of help. Like people are so helpful. They're just like, yeah, I'm also just talking at a screen. So here's some trips that I picked up. So it's a very nice community to be around.
Yeah. Shout out to the Kind of Funny community and And a lot of my game network connections have been through that community, like you and shout out to Jordan, Dr. JM, and Chadwick, and the cool thing is like we're all also just folks who like enjoy listening to podcasts, so we all just want to make something, and everyone kind of understands that, and there's no competition to it. It's like all cooperative, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nerdy question from me then, like what audio equipment are you using? What's your process like for creating podcasts?
So currently I have, so there was 2 times. So I actually did at one point have the whole, what is it, like the soundboard with the XLR mics and all that.
Yeah.
I went all in. That was back when I did the in-person one. Now, after the pandemic and everything, everyone got tech savvy with just being able to do it over Discord and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So now I do Yeti, or Blue, excuse me. Blue makes some pretty decent products, USB microphones. And then, like Audacity is a free one, which is good for editing. But basically, I just fine-tuned a USB microphone, like $100 microphone, and made it sound pretty decent. And I've been able to roll with that for a while. Yeah, but I did the whole, like, getting a soundboard, plugging each microphone into the thing, and, like, pushing the dials up and down. Like, I got in there early on. So I learned how to do a lot of unnecessary stuff. Maybe if I run up sound at a wedding, that'll be a good skill for that.
Yeah, you can run an event or something.
yeah. I do know how to do it now.
That's good. Well, the natural skills you learned from pursuing a hobby, being creative. Your mic does sound really good for $100 mic. It's
I will say
pretty crispy.
Yeah, well, because there's more expensive mics that I think are. But what I would suggest for anyone getting started or whatever, like I said, I have a Blue, I think Yeti. That's what it's called.
Yeah,
Snowballs are the cheapest ones. I would say stay away from those, because they sound good, but they pick up literally everything in a 10-mile radius. So get like a Blue Yeti or something like that. Go in onto your gain on my computer. There's like sound settings and the input volume, and put it down, because I know a lot of people. I did it a lot early on too, where they just like, well, the microphone needs to be cranked up so everyone can hear me, and it's like it picks up everything. So what I do is I put it down to like 80, 81. And then you just get close when you want to talk. And then when you're far away, it doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't pick up everything over here. It only picks up when you're basically eating your microphone, which I would just say, pro tip, if you want it to sound good and not spend $500 on a microphone, just turn your sound down and then get real close to your microphone.
There you go. Yeah. Can add the right filters later. Like, a lot of post-processing stuff you can do as well. And yeah, like you're right, though. I feel like during the pandemic and everybody worked from home, everyone kind of learned to do these setups correctly. That being said, I still get people that take calls on their AirPods.
Oh, yeah.
With the mic angle looking down, or the camera angle looking down and up. But yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool that you pick up on these skills just by following your passions.
Mm-hmm.
What kept you disciplined over all this time doing podcasts? I know the community was one, and wanting to have a creative outlet was another. Was there anything else, or?
I would say it's having good people around you. So, like specifically Respawn Aim Fire, I don't know if I've missed a show. I know I missed one show because I was on a trip somewhere, but just like having another person there, can like help keep you accountable. Just like it forms habits, because you have to like I can't let this person down, and that a person's also like, all right, let's make sure it happens. So doing that as a habit, just like for Respawn Fire, it's like, all right, every Sunday night we're gonna try to record a regular show, and that's just is what it is. It's on the calendar. You don't have to think about it. It's good for making a habit, because Sunday nights I got a thing, so you can prepare for that ahead of time if something changes. But I think other people, and just like, I don't know, it's the thing of like, how serious you want to take it. Like, I don't ever try to take it deathly serious, because that'll burn you out real quick. If you're like, oh, I've got to do this so good so I get picked up by whoever and make it a career.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not going to happen, but just like give yourself a goal and just like stick to it so you enjoy it. And I feel like things go a lot better if you're not like burning yourself up trying to force a thing that isn't really what you want to do. Because if you like to do it, it's not hard to like, hey, let's sit down and play these ridiculous game shows that we make up with each other once a week, because it's fun and let's worry about it.
Yes, they are fun.
Yeah. Make good habits, I suppose, is the answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, having another person seems to be a pretty good strategy. I really liked your point about not making it into something that you don't want it to be. I think with content creation now, everybody wants to monetize it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'd be great to have an ad sponsor, but then it becomes something different. It's not your hobby anymore. It's now a job, and you're looking at ways to optimize it. So I feel like with Grow Up Level Up, like talking about myself for a second, I feel like I almost dipped into that territory with like launching Patreons and looking into that. But then I was doing it week by week, and I was really burning out. Like, I work a full-time job and have other responsibilities. So it's tough. It's tricky.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with trying to make a little, because we do have a Patreon. I think it's like,
feel free. How do people get access to it?
patreon.com/Respawn Fire.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But it's like basically like our friends and stuff are like, hey, I think so. We make like $12 to $15 a month or whatever. We're just like, we're only like, hey, if you give us $1, you'll get an extra show.
Cool.
And it's like, it's easy for us. That's easy for everyone else. Sometimes I get more. Sometimes I give $1. It is what it is. But it wasn't like, okay, we've got to make sure that we put out 17 videos a month, 17 or 10 things on TikTok so we can mount. No, making it a job is, there are people who do it, and that's awesome if you get to that point. But if you, like you said, if you don't want to burn yourself out, just like take it at your own pace. You got to be comfortable with what you do because you're the one doing it. So I guess it depends how much you want to hustle. I also don't like hustling that hard. Yeah. I'll hustle sometimes, but not too much. So
yeah, a comfortable amount of hustling.
Yeah, exactly.
So with Respawning Fire or any of your podcasts, like, what's the coolest experience that it has brought you?
Okay, so I guess this counts, but it wasn't the reason. Things like this, like meeting people and like hanging out with people is the best thing, right? So I'll give multiple examples. Like, okay, so there's you might know, I don't know if he's a Twitter follow for you or not, but Jacob McCourt is a friend of mine, does Respawn, or not Respawn as far as mine. He does Left Behind Game Club, which is the podcast that he does, right? Jacob's cool. I was just like, yo, Jacob, you're awesome. I like your stuff. He came on our podcast. I've been on his. It was really cool and all that. Jacob's lucky enough to be that he went to PAX and got, like, he was a panelist at PAX. I think he just submitted stuff to him and they liked it. And then this last PAX West, he was like, hey, like, any chance you want to come on? I was like, you know what? Sure, dude, works for me. Like, if you're a PAX panelist, you get free tickets. So that really helps not having to pay for PAX. It's great.
Yeah.
And then I came over, I flew over to Seattle. I got to be on a panel, which was super awesome. It was the Game Boy Advance is the greatest handheld console ever made. You can look that up on YouTube. Yeah. But then after that, he had another panel, which is video game trivia. And I got to sit front row and get to help him out with all that. But then there was like, I mean, Lucy Jane, like the entire Giant Bomb people were there because Lucy was on the panel. So I just like was hanging out next to the Giant Bomb people while we're at PAX that we got paid to go to, but got to go to for free. Yeah. It's just because I'm like, I like Jacob's podcast for a long time. It wasn't like, hey, Jacob, help a brother out or anything like that. It was just like, oh, be nice. We all do this cool thing. And then an opportunity came up. And now we're going to East. Everyone on Respawn Name Fire is going to PAX East. Ooh. And hopefully we'll get our own panel. We'll see. We're still waiting for submissions to get back. But it's just like really cool that like we did a podcast. He came on my podcast. We talked about, me and Jacob talked about Far Cry 6. Like we reviewed Far Cry 6, like, 2 years ago when that came out. And then that just was like, I'm on a plane going to Seattle, hanging out next to the Giant Bomb people and hanging out again with an awesome crew of people who weren't even like, who were just like us, like normal podcast dudes and girls who were just having a great time out in another city because we all just talk about video games on the internet. I think it comes down to that's why we were all there. I think for me, that's the coolest one for sure. Yeah, no, that does sound really cool. Like unique opportunities that just come up because of this seemingly small thing, like talking about video games on the internet. Don't people do that on Discord every night? But yeah, but to network and connect is something really special. That is cool, Pax. And it wasn't even the plan. He just was like, hey, I got a spot. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not, bud? That sounds good to me. And then it's just, like I said, now we get to go to East for free because since I was on that panel, I'm quote unquote media. Ooh. So now we're all in there for free. And again, Wasn't expecting it. I thank him every day for it. Like, dude, that was so cool that happened.
Mhm.
But yeah, just was like, because we talked about Far Cry 6 2 years ago. Here we are.
And it left a lasting impression. And like, to be clear, it was never the original goal. It was never to like get free tickets to somewhere or to bump elbows with games media folks and people do this for a living. It's came out of passion and camaraderie.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, one more thing. This is dumb. So on Isle of Misfit Rolls, this one was a little different, but I was ahead of the curve, so it was actually ended up being pretty cool. So Isle of Misfit Rolls, again, D&D podcast, and I was into Baldur's Gate 3 in early access. So I was like, hey, this is really cool. Do you guys want to help pitch in? One of the voice actors was on Cameo, and I was like, it was like $25. It was nothing. I was like, hey, let's pitch in. Because I tweeted at her once and she replied back. Because again, this was back when she had like 4,000 followers, like before everyone knew who she was in Baldur's Gate. And I was like, cool, let's just throw her $25. And then like she gave us a custom intro, said the name of the podcast, did all that. And then Baldur's Gate 3 comes out. And then she exploded. And then Cameo was much more expensive now. But it was the actress for Lizelle. Who's just does the intro for our podcast because it was like, hey, I played early access. You're really cool in this thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us things? She's like, yeah, 21. I don't care. That's cool. And now it's like, to think that we have Lizelle as the intro to that podcast is kind of a crazy thing to think of.
Yeah. And then new listeners will be like, whoa, that is so cool. You're in Baldur's Gate or something like that.
yeah, we're in Baldur's Gate. We're canon. no. But that was also just like another fun thing because we were all like, yeah, we all like D&D. Adam thinks that this character is cool. No one else knows about her because he's only playing early access. I'm like, yeah, let's just do that. So just fun things. Again, because you're hanging out with cool people and fun people and just random cool stuff can happen. So
yeah, that is true. That I really like that philosophy. If you're hanging out with cool people and doing cool things will happen.
Yeah, hopefully,
That's awesome. So I guess you've done podcasting for like 7 years. I'm assuming you're not going to stop. Do you have any long-term goals with podcasting or anything you want to do? Like, so far we've been pretty, cool things will happen, go with the flow, meet new people. But are there any like actual, long-term goals you want to do with podcasting?
Not really. Honestly, what's already happened is more than I ever expected. I would be cool if, so again, here's the thing. Like, I just want to keep doing what we're doing. If other stuff comes up, cool. But because like, this year, like I was going to go to PAX East and hang out with the people that I like who do a podcast anyways, right? I'm like, you guys are here. We're going to hang out. That's a fun time. But like we applied for a panel. So like if we go from, we're just talking about games on Respawn and Fire and now we're like at PAX East and on a whole doing a panel, like that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a goal to be like, we have to make sure we're on a PAX East panel, but these are things that I will take advantage of. These things will be cool. Mm-hmm. So again, as long as I don't get burned out, which I try to, again, I don't over push myself at all. And I'm just down for whatever. So if people in the sphere are like, hey, let's do a thing, let's hang out, I'm down for whatever. So if cool things keep happening because of that, awesome. Like that's, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know, be nice. And then just hang out with your buds and see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I kind of get it. It's your long-term goal isn't like a set thing. It's let's keep going. If cool stuff comes up, awesome. If it doesn't, I still got to hang out with my friends and enjoy doing this hobby. So I kind of like that. That's a very very chill way to look at, I guess, content creation overall. I know some people are like, 5,000 followers by end of the month or something, and I can see people getting burnt out by that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'll be one of them followers. I'll help you out, bud. But like, that's just, that would have been for me maybe like 10 years ago, right? I could see being like in your early 20s being like, oh yeah, this is the thing I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's cool. But like, here's the thing. I'm not even that old, but like my son is almost the age where he would want to be an influencer, right?
Wow. Yeah.
I had a son very young is basically what it was.
Oh.
So I'm like, if this is a dream that he wants, maybe I shouldn't push super hard for that because that's weird that your dad's doing the thing that you think is cool. But like I said, I'm just here to hang out, have a good time, do that. Whole sort of.
That's awesome. That is really cool to hear. Thanks for sharing about your journey podcasting and like your perspective on content creation as well and where it fits into your life. And I guess hopefully it brought a new perspective to somebody listening. on what it's like to work on the internet. I don't want to say content creation too many times. I'm going to get a tongue twister. I want to move into talking about video games. This is Grow Up, Level Up. We are a video game-ish show. We talk to folks about the funny games that help them grow up. So I have to ask, like, how have games impacted your life?
I mean, that's always been the thing that I think I've enjoyed the most. Like, even growing up, middle school, high school, like I played sports, and that was fun. I'm still a sports fan now. But I don't know, I just always enjoyed it. Again, that was a good way to like make friends in the neighborhood, and just always been a fun, enjoyable hobby. And, you know, especially as you get older, I think like the minute you're out of high school, well, no, because the minute you're out of college, I guess, is that like you basically should already have your friend group formed. Not saying you aren't allowed to have new friends, but let's be honest, most adults don't make a lot of new friends. Mm-hmm. So just like also have like, hey, we're all buds now. This is the group. Like, you guys want to jump on, you know, some throw out a random game.
Call of Duty. That's
yeah, Call of Duty, whatever. Like, it's a great way to like just hang out and like form that relationship as an adult, because I'm not going to school every day to hang out with these kids.
Right.
It's also just something that's enjoyable. The idea that you do a podcast on it is just because like I like it so much, I want to talk about it, or I hate this thing so much, let's talk about it. Don't do too much of that, but once in a while it's fine. So yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Yeah, I think that is very interesting. That the random thought came to my head. It was like, I think I told my parents about video game journalism overall, and they're like, people listen to that stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I guess people do listen to this kind of stuff. It is interesting.
You'd be shocked.
So, yeah, right. Going back to games though, like, what qualities do you look for in a good game? We kind of touched on it a little earlier, but other than the strategy, the grid, and percentages, like, what other things do you look for in a good game?
Number one for me is it depends on the game, right? Like, I think the most important thing is it needs to be fun or enjoyable. I take this just for movies as well. Like, so like last year Starfield came out, and that one's a little divisive because like it scored pretty decent, but then some people hate it, whatever. Like, for me, I'm like, it's fun. Every game I play doesn't have to be the game of the year, as long as I enjoy it. Like, I like for Starfield. Again, is it on my top 10? Like near the bottom for last year, right? But I just need to have fun with it, which that's for me, a game should be fun. Mm-hmm. Number one thing. So again, if it's an online multiplayer game, it's like, this is like Fortnite. Fortnite have a ton of fun. This is leading nowhere. It does not matter. But man, I like dressing up as Captain America and shooting people with a pistol. That's a great time. I don't mind. Yeah. So I think fun needs to, again, especially that's why I like strategy games. For me, that's sort of fun. And if you're not going to be fun, you got to be weird, right? Like Alan Wake 2 last year. Like, I adore Alan Wake 2. It is the right amount of this is weird and strange, and someone is out here doing their own thing. I'm super into it. So, you know, like some people are like, oh, I only like narratives, and I like a good narrative. But if you're fun and goofy, let me tell you, I like you a little bit more. That's just my personality. That's just my.
I resonate with that. I feel like I'm in that camp too. If it's not fun, like if you're not, Captain America and Ariana Grande running it down with Master Chief in Fortnite, like, then it's got to be weird. I haven't gotten to Alan Wake 2 yet, but what's a weird game I really enjoyed lately? Chants of Sonara, I guess.
See, that's a nut idea. The idea what that game is doesn't sound fun. Yeah, but it works.
Seems like homework.
But it does work, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Like, someone gave me an interesting idea, and it's not going to be for everybody, but like, if it's for you, it's going to be for you, because like, it is super cool. So like, I like that. Mm-hmm. Like, give me that not more than anything else, but I will give you a lot of leeway. I will evangelize something if it's doing something different, and if it's a good time. I'll be like, you know what? You get a pass from me. You don't have to be a 10 out of 10 for me to enjoy it. It's fine.
Totally. No, that's cool. Thanks for sharing your top genres, I guess. Fun is your top genre.
Fun and weird. I'm all about
it. That's awesome. What are you playing through right now, actually?
So it is January when we're recording this, late January. So what I do, I always do this. This is not a way to do it. Don't do it, people. Is I play a lot. I do really try to play a lot throughout the year. Basically, as stuff comes out. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not a big backlog person. Just I'm like, if I wanted to play it, I would have bought it and play it when it came out.
Finished it, yeah.
Yeah. But for Game of the Year stuff, I do go extra hard. So like in December, getting ready for Responding Fire's Game of the Year stuff, or just like being in the know for Game Awards or whatever it is. Like I beat, God, in that month, it was like I started and beat Alan Wake 2.
Wow.
I finished up Baldur's Gate 3. I was near the end of it. That's fine. But like I go super extra hard during December because I'm like, I want to be informed. I don't know why. It doesn't really matter that much, but I do it. So when January comes around, I'm like, I'm done. So I basically, from January 1st to like 15th, I just played Madden like career mode. Didn't matter.
I'm palate cleanser, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, it's 2027 and I'm on my third team and I don't care. This is fun. But recently I just got into Destiny because my friends are super into Destiny. I was like, sure. Like I'll come like 1 month a year. I'll play a lot of Destiny and then I don't touch it for the rest of the year. But I also started playing, I beat Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. Because it was like a 3-hour game. And I was like, perfect. I can do this all day. And then I'm also playing Signalis. Or is it Signalis? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
They don't say it in the video game. But it's Signalis. Basically, it's like futuristic aesthetic, but it is basically Resident Evil from the PS1 era.
Oh.
Just like a modern version of that. It's like a horror survival thing.
Interesting.
But you're like in Robot City or whatever. So that is the only thing I'm really playing. I think when February hits, I'll probably get to Prince of Persia because I played that demo and that game looks awesome. I'm like, I don't want to give this time because I'm still in my Madden 2.
Your detox kind of. Yeah. Don't want to think too hard.
But in February, I'll probably get back to that. But Signalis is the one that I am playing because it's like 8 hours total and everyone likes it. I'm like, you know what? This is a one backlog thing that I'll get to. So I'm playing absolutely nothing worth it and Signalis.
I think there needs to be more of these finite games, these like games that end after 8 hours, or Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. I was actually listening to your guys' episode on it a little earlier this week. So yeah, I've been meaning to check that out. But yeah, like shorter games. I recently played through Venba. And I was like,
I loved Venba last year.
Yeah. I was like, thank
90
goodness.
minutes and you're done. It's
and I'm like, what a great story.
Good.
I'm so fulfilled. So these like finite games do have a place. You just want to enjoy something and enjoy the fun of it or the weird of it. Those are definitely super necessary. But cool to hear you're in your New Year's detox phase. I don't hear that often, so I think it's cool you have that set out through the year.
I think most people don't go crazy in December either, so that's probably why. But yeah.
That's awesome. That is a good excuse though to finish these games in December. It's like I got to be informed for the podcast, as it's my job, not job.
Yeah, there's no reason. I'm just like, I need to do this. It's just a mental thing. Like I got to do this. Like it doesn't matter, but I got to do it.
I want to do that. There's always so many games that fall into my backlog because I guess I don't have a weekly show like Respawning Fire to chat about it. But maybe I'll think about that.
Yeah, then you should do it because it just forces me to do it.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, I have to do it because I have to talk about it on the podcast, or I have to do it for Game of the Year whenever Chad and Alexander Kozina pick the wrong game for the winner because they don't play video games. But
and you have to be informed, so you make sure that they make the right decision.
Well, one of us is informed, the other two just vote based on nothing, but that's fine.
Fair enough. I guess I want to talk a little bit about you growing up. Then, what growing up? I assumed you played video games with your friends. What would you consider was the greatest game of all time?
Oh, back then?
Back in the day. Don't have to specify a year or anything.
Yeah. Man, we really got into Grand Theft Auto. My first game I ever actually really cared about was Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yellow was the first one that I bought. Before that, I had NES. I didn't care. I just had it as a gift. But I didn't really buy it because I didn't have a Super NES or anything. I did not care. Pokemon came out, super cared about that. So that was a big one because when Pokemon comes out in 97,
yeah,
I don't remember.
something around there.
Something like that. I'm born in 1990, so I'm literally like a kid when that comes out.
Perfect. You're at that age, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the first one that I cared about. So Pokemon would probably be up there. And then again, you can see that my age and the progression of like, now we're hanging out with other people playing games, and the Grand Theft Autos were like the new cool thing. Yeah. So that was definitely up there. getting the monster trucks in San Andreas and running around San Francisco and having a good time. So yeah, stuff like that. And then Halo, I think multiplayer for a while was the best one.
Yeah. For those not watching the video, I guess there's a mystery noise in the back.
Yeah, someone's just spraying disinfectant. It's fine.
Perfect.
But I think Halo was probably a big one though, because that's when we got together, we played.
Okay.
That was the first like multiplayer shoot. I mean, because it was one of the first ones on consoles. So that was probably a big deal. We were really into the hits. Like whenever a hit came out, we were into it.
Yeah.
So
it was different back then too. Like you couldn't get every game, and mostly everyone played the big ones, which was Pokemon, GTA, Halo. So that does make sense. I enjoy Pokemon too. I think that was one of the first games I cared about.
Yeah,
got to watch the cartoon, got to name your own Pokemon and make your own team.
It was the perfect storm because it was like, okay, again for me, my age group, you guys are 7, 8, 9, whatever it is. Here's a cool TV show because you guys still watch cartoons, and here is a video game for a little handheld that's not super expensive and that you might already own. And it's like, and the cards. Here's cards too. It's like, all right, you guys just stole every child's money for. I mean, they're still doing it. So,
hasn't ended.
It keeps going.
Yeah, no, that's true. And then GTA and Halo. Yeah, that's also. We're about the same age, so that came at the time where it's like cool to be bad.
That was definitely like. Yeah. I don't even say edgelord because we're not even old enough to be edgelords, but definitely like, oh, did you know that you could have a chainsaw and kill a woman in Vice City? And it was like, oh man, let's go do that and not tell anybody about it because it's so bad.
Let's speed in the car and go to strip clubs. Yeah.
Like not even paying attention that like Ray Liotta is the main character because we don't know who Ray Liotta is because we're children and we don't care. Absolutely. We're like, oh, we're just gonna go around and shoot a cop with a cheat code. Oh, look at this.
Flying helicopters and stuff. No, that's awesome. It is quite fun to grow up in this. That's, I guess, another word. Grow up and play what's trending and then kind of see where people are at now and what's trending with kids. It's like all Roblox and Fortnite, but even then they have their own sub games that they play within them. Quite interesting. Is there a game that you'd like to see like remastered or remade in this day and age? Updated graphics?
So it's interesting because I'm actually not super big on nostalgia because like I try to go back and play old stuff. I'm like, oh no, this deserves to stay back here. But so I wish, okay, so it's not super old, so it's sort of a cheat. And they already did a version of it, but I would love for me, the idea was just to do a quote unquote remake and like an RE remake where it's basically the same game. They changed up a little bit of stuff, but it is unrecognizable from RE2. Like RE2 remake is not the same game at all, but it is the same game. Do that for Mass Effect, right? We got Legendary Edition, still very good. Again, those games are great. They just barely like, how about 4K and 500 frames a second? I'm like, you know what? Sounds good.
Yeah.
But if they like did a full like Unreal Engine 5 from the ground up remake, I think especially 1 is the only real one that has any that feels old.
That looks feels old, I think is a big one.
Yeah, they did a little bit with the Legendary Edition, but I think you could completely redo that trilogy and work. Because again, the thing about that game that will never be bad is like the characters and the story and the voice acting. All that stuff is great. So like just make it look better and maybe play a little bit tighter. I think that would be, I mean, they get my money for Legendary Edition. They get my money for that one too.
Yeah, Legendary Edition 2.
Yeah, extra Legendary or whatever. That would be fun. Because again, since I don't have so much nostalgia, but like that was the one. Actually, God. So here's the thing. I talked about this. This is an ongoing bit on Respawn Name Fire. Is that so? Aspire Studios. I don't want to talk too bad about them because people are working hard. It is what it is. But Aspire was a studio that was supposed to do the KOTOR remake. When I heard that news, I was like, okay, sounds good. Except for these guys they only ever made like the Switch ports of the old Star Wars games that never worked. Where it was like, they were like, oh, why does what is it? What's the Commando? Is it Commando? Republic Commando?
Yeah, Republic Commando.
Yeah. I was like, why does it work worse now when they redid it than when it did back then, right?
Yeah.
So I would love like a really, really good studio to fully remake that game. Like
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, the original KOTOR. Yeah. Just because I love that. I adore that game. But my friend who's never played it, he's like, should I play it? I'm like, no, don't do it. It's tough. It is so hard to play that game now. So like, give me a full new combat system, give me a new twist on the story or whatever. But that game was so cool back then, and I would love to play, but I can't suggest it because it's so old. So I think the full remake of that one would also work. I'm just naming BioWare games. That's fine.
True.
But I think either one of those would be very cool.
Yeah. No, those are really cool polls. I think in Mass Effect and Final Fantasy VII Remake, or I guess Resident Evil, like it shows that it's possible to do something like this, and people will buy it and people will care. But it is a really big investment, like from everybody involved. So I can see why, like, we're more cautious of it. But I would love to see, Mass Effect with modern graphics, even if it looks and functions like Baldur's Gate 3 and Knights of the Old Republic. I think I actually did try playing that over the pandemic, but yeah, it was kind of rough. It felt old.
Yeah, the combat. But you just said, like, okay, so you got RE2 Remake, which is reimagine what you think the game was. Just like Dead Space Remake was like, this is what you think Dead Space was, but here's what it really is. Mm-hmm. But like FF7 Remake is also a perfect example of, okay, we're redoing this game, but they actually just like do something different, which I also think is fun to be like, oh, you know FF7, but no, actually you don't know what this game is. Mm-hmm. I like that idea too. So I think there are multiple ways to do it, but I think just saying, this old game's in 4K now, it depends, but I would, we're asking about remakes here, and then I want full remakes. So.
Oh, yeah, I dig it. Well, those are two great polls. Mass Effect is pretty sweet. When I went to film school, I met a couple of folks who worked on the original Mass Effect, like they were guest mentors. Super cool.
Oh, awesome.
So I guess, like, reflecting on you one more time, like, what game do you think had the biggest influence on your life? It could be like reinforced your beliefs or direction of your career, your hobbies. Which is there one game or maybe a couple of games that you think had a really big part in your growing up?
I'm trying to think. What is the game that matters the most to me? Again, I would probably point back to that Halo thing, because I think that's what made me a console gamer. Well, there's a couple of things with the original Halo. So again, cared about Pokemon, so I'd already had a Game Boy though. The original Xbox and the N64 were my first consoles that I bought with my own money. So like I went out of my way to get those. N64, the GameCube was already out for like a year or two when I bought that. So we're not going to include that because that wasn't even, I don't know why I did that as a kid. I just wanted one.
It's cheaper.
But again, my friends brought me onto Halo, played Halo. I was like, all right, I want to get this machine specifically. Like I never had a PS2. I got PS3 on, but I didn't have a 2 because I got an original Xbox instead. And again, Halo was great. Playing that with friends, figuring out how to play a first-person shooter was very nice. Also, a little extra, the first time I ever played it, I only played it inverted. So I've only played inverted ever since.
No way!
Yep, my Y-axis has to be inverted. Otherwise, I can't do it. So, and that was just because the first time I touched that controller, that's just what was set on that particular controller.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, down to look up? Makes sense to me.
Yeah, altered your brain chemistry. It's permanently.
Immediately. So that is the way that I have always played first-person games is... Actually, no, third-person too. Doesn't matter. Unless it's a mouse, I am playing inverted up and down.
Wow. That is very interesting. So the biggest influence was Halo inverted.
Yep, that is the one.
That's awesome. That is actually a really cool answer. Do people give you shit for it or anything like that?
They have before, especially, I was talking earlier about my son where like, so he has his own setup and stuff, but sometimes he'll want to like play on the same TV or, like we played most of the way out together or whatever. So he'll come down when he used my controller and he's like, well, what's going on here? I'm like, oh, bro, you already know it's inverted. We've had this conversation, buddy. You know it's inverted. And he has to stop and change it. And then whenever I get the controller back, I got to stop and change it back.
Yeah. So
he doesn't like it. He gives me a lot of guff about it, but I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, but get good, kid, I guess. That's all I gotta say. Yeah. This is just how all old people play games, inverted. This is how everyone over the age of 23 plays their games. So you need to get it together. Yeah. Get ready. One day you're just going to wake up and be like, oh, I have to play inverted. No. It's like, you have a camera and you're pushing down on the camera to look up. Yeah. That's how it Yeah. Come on, kid. I feel like I must have played some early
flight sim before, and that was actually also one of my first games, and it was inverted. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like you're playing, you push forward to go down, and then I feel like at some point I had to like I was bouncing in between. I think I was at a friend's house, so we were playing Halo on the TV, and that was normal. And then we were playing Flight Sim on the PC, and that was inverted, and it was like a constant struggle. But I got it now. I'm using the non-inverted.
I'm thinking about it. It's probably a good thing I didn't play a lot of shooters on the N64 because I wouldn't have had that option. It would also there wouldn't have been a second stick, which would have made it very different. But yeah, I didn't play a ton of GoldenEye. Like I didn't really care about it. But if I would have, that would have maybe made me be normal, quote unquote.
Yeah, it's preference. It's all a preference. Yeah. All right. So as we close out, I always like to ask my guest a couple of fun questions, just to dig into the psyche a little more. The first one, let's pretend Grow Up Level Up has blown up. I'm bigger than all the podcasts in the world combined, and I have $1 bajillion, and I want to invest in a project for you, Adam, a game or something that represents your life, and you get to choose everything from like gameplay and graphics and sound and console. What kind of game would it be?
I feel like I would have to pick a strategy game.
Okay. Yeah. yeah.
Just for gameplay wise, but no, you know what I want? Okay. This doesn't really make sense because I actually had an idea for a strategy game or whatever.
Cool. No, it's
what I would actually enjoy if it's not necessarily like representing me, but like what I would want.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the thing that I'm using your money to make, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is basically, so recently we saw Hellblade 2 had a show at the developer direct thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And then God of War, and we have all those kind of games. I would love like a super polished, super cinematic game that looks absolutely gorgeous and it's like 8 hours long, but just like give me a different culture than we're used to. Just, I like the idea of that, right? So like even mythology, like the idea of when God of War 2018 or Ragnarok came out, like people know Norse, they're like, I know Thor, Chris Hemsworth is that guy, I know that, but there's a lot more in there. Same thing with Hellblade with the whole Celtic, right? Yes. I believe she is. Yeah. So give me something super high quality, and don't need to be super long, but a different culture. Either maybe African culture, maybe again, I like Vemba so much. I was like, oh, I don't know a lot about Indian culture. I know just a tiny bit here and there. Yeah, so just give me a super high budget game about a mythology that we don't know a lot about. And it can be third person action, whatever. That's cool. Mm-hmm. But I do love whenever you sit down, you're like, oh, I didn't know anything about this. And this is actually really cool and neat. And I'm learning thing about gods or beliefs or myths or whatever.
Stories.
Just give me that. Yeah, give me that and something I don't know anything about and just make it cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really fun idea. Is it still going to be a strategy game or more like...
I mean, my personal game would be a strategy game, but I'm just saying for what I want. Give me, I mean, we want it to be successful, so it's got to be like a third-person action game.
Right.
That's fine. But I think just showing us something new we haven't seen or we don't know about, but maybe someone else does, would be a cool idea. And then let's say that there's a mode where, you sit down at a table and play a game and it's a strategy game. You know how a lot of games did that? I think Horizon did that, where it's like I forgot what it's called in Horizon, but it's like you play with the little board pieces. Yeah. That can be the strategy game for me. Okay. Like the rest of it can be.
Yeah. The mini game. I think Witcher did Gwent and they spun that off. Yeah.
Yeah, give me Gwent, but it's strategy just for Adam to make me happy. But then the rest, show me something.
This is the producer's request. We have to have it in.
Just, you got to put it in there. Figure it out, guys.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah, I never actually thought about that. That like projects, like God of War, like Hellblade, they might be someone's first introduction to that culture and those stories. I would love to see something like that. Like oversaturation of, I guess, Norse now, Greek and Roman stuff for sure.
Yeah, because we know a lot about Greeks. Especially watching like Percy Jackson. I'm like, I know who Kronos is. I know who Hades is. They still do interesting things, but like, give me like a weird one, like one that people like don't know any, like Pacific Island. I don't know much, about that, but you can give me something that can teach me.
Yeah, I'm sure every culture has so much lore you can dig into, and whether it's stories or history, I feel like it's definitely untapped, the amount of stories we can pull from different cultures around the world. So that's awesome. What a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Last question for you is, what is your one piece of wisdom to leave with the world?
Oh man, what's the most cliched one I can think of? I've listened to your show before, and I went back and listened to more this week. I was like, I can't copy what someone else did.
You can.
But I mean, I don't know, like what we're doing now and all the things that I've done before, just like, no, it's weird to say like be a good person, but just like, I guess don't be afraid to like be outgoing, like a good person. Like there's so many cool things you can do. Like just as simple as like, okay, just for a weird example, be like, hey, I listen to your podcast, and like just comment and be like, oh, hey, this is who I am. Here's like a name or like an icon to a kind word kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And just like be a supporter. I don't know, just support people that you like that aren't, that are cool people. You don't know how much it means to them, or again.
Yeah.
I've always just liked the podcast that my friends did. And then it's like, all right, you're going to PAX now. Again, not the plan, but it's like, I'm happy that you're here. I get to be here now. This is cool. Just because I was a nice person. I like you. I would have gone if you just wanted me to show up to the show. Like, I don't care, bud. I'll be there for you. So just like, I don't know, find some friends and be nice. Be a good human being.
That's awesome.
Good things will happen to you. Maybe it'll take 7 years, but maybe it will. So
no, that's awesome. I think another way to word that is don't be afraid to be a kind person. Don't be afraid to reach out and say nice things. You never know where it might lead you, and it's okay to just do it just because it's nice. It's nice to be nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have people who've done the, so we do a backlog game, like once a month we play a different game. And one of my friends, so I listened to a podcast, tabletop RPG, the actual play podcast, for a long time. And then I just went in their Discord when they started talking, just being like, hey, like I've been here, but like, I'm just going to like actually be active or whatever. And then again, super cool guy, Brian, super goofy dude. And then he was like, hey, like I was on your Patreon. Again, he didn't tell me this. He's like, I was on the thing and voted for the game. So like, let's talk about the game together. I'm like, bro, like, come on, let's do this. And then like they did like we did a Halloween and a Christmas, like one shot thing over there. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, because I was like, hey, goofy dude, I like the podcast you make. And now we're just like talk every day in Discord, make fun of him relentlessly. And he comes on and talks about like Minute and I forgot what other game we did. Axiom Verge or whatever. Yeah. And it was like, awesome, dude. Just because we just, being nice and being outgoing, I don't know.
That's awesome. No, I really appreciate that. Thanks for sharing about like, it's okay to reach out and chat and be outgoing. Like no one's going to ding you for it.
No, like this wouldn't have happened, Someone's got to.
That's true.
Be nice and talk to people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For the folks who are still listening, like we connected through Twitter DMs. Like I think without Kind of Funny or without our passion of podcasting, we would have never connected. So this is an example of your piece of wisdom.
There we go. Smart guy over here.
I'm just repeating what you're saying.
No.
Well, thank you, Adam, for joining us on Grow Up, Level Up. This has been such a cool episode, just catching up and learning like from you and how podcasting has affected you positively. And this is not even the end. This is just maybe step 1 out of a million of where podcasting can take us. So thank you so much for coming on. If people want to find you and all the podcasts you do, where can people do that?
Oh, just say real first, thanks for having me and thinking of me in the first place. Because I was like, oh yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's go on here and just let's jibber jabber for an hour about whatever. This will be a good time.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on. But yeah, you can find me on social media at Adam Gumby. And then Respawn Aim Fire is the gaming podcast, and Misfit Rolls is the D&D podcast, or Isle of Misfit Rolls. They'll both pop up, so you can look for that. That actually, so season 1 or series 1 ended this summer, but we just came back. We're about to come back for series 2, and it's going to be pirate themed, and that should be, that first episode should probably be out in the next couple of weeks. I don't know. We're going to record it in like 2 Tuesdays, and then I'll probably just start editing and throwing stuff up. So we're coming back with pirates, everyone.
Cool. You said the right words. I love pirates.
Pirates and cowboys. I'm all about it.
Excellent. So we'll link everything, of course, in the description below to make it easier for you all. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please leave a thumbs up or a comment in the descriptions below. You can follow at Grow Up Level Up on everything from YouTube to Twitter or X to Instagram. Find us at Grow Up Level Up. If you want to message me, I am at SamsonXP on all the socials as well. And my DMs are open. I'm always open to collaborating and meeting new folks and knowing your thoughts on the podcast. For today, though, thank you once again, Adam, for joining us, and hope to catch you next time.